everyone, and good morning on this Friday morning, depending on where you are at Eastern Standard Time, Pacific Time. This is Exploring the Motherland, African News with Garth. I am your host. Exploring the Motherland is a show for the sole purpose of showing you all what we do here at Quest Unite Africa, to show the mission of Quest Unite Africa. If you haven't been here before, I will tell you the mission of Quest Unite Africa. The mission of Quest Unite Africa is to promote economic development and critical infrastructure for the benefit of the African diaspora and the African continent. We do this through our 4-pillar strategy. Those 4 pillars being cultural engagement, business, medical, and technological innovation. Each week, the purpose of the show is to follow news developments throughout Africa and relate them to the mission of Quest Unite Africa. So this should be a good show. I hope you all are ready. Let's do it. South Africa, Ramaphosa urges safe resolution in Stilfontein mining standoff. So basically, illegal mining is a problem as a whole in Africa. I don't know if you've been watching previous shows. We talked about illegal mining affecting environmental sustainability in Ghana and how it is plaguing their economy and how something needs to be done. Well, we see this trend in South Africa. Illegal mining is a huge loss on tax mineral revenues for the country. Also, illegal mining causes more illegal activity with crime syndicates and other illegal gang activities surrounded around this practice. This practice is influenced largely by poverty because people are desperate and they hope to find gold or anything they can sell to make ends meet. However, the problem is people have been going in abandoned mines, and these abandoned mines are closed off to the public for a reason. South Africa used to have a huge mining industry, but it declined after 1970, and a lot of people got laid off, causing this mine abandonment. And now Ramaphosa is pressed with a hard decision: how to stop illegal mining, to stop the loss of economic development and critical infrastructure too, because people are illegally mining in places they shouldn't be. So without further ado, let's play the news clips.
This was my sitting room. You can see.
Pakati, whose nephew's one of the miners still underground, told us he understands why his neighbours broke his house to pieces and sold them for scrap. He says his entire suburb was dismantled in the last 2 years by people who were desperate for jobs. Like his nephew and hundreds of others who went down this disused mine shaft digging for gold 2 kilometers underground. Most of the mines in this area closed more than 30 years ago.
Some of the women that were vandalizing this, their husbands is under there. They are underground. So because no access for them to come out, they are sleeping with an empty stomach with kids.
Police say they've arrested thousands of illegal miners at hundreds of disused mines in an operation that was launched a year ago. They've been at the top of this shaft in Stilfontein for weeks, but hundreds of miners below haven't come out. After police were accused of trying to starve them out, equipment's been brought to the mine in preparation for a professional rescue operation. Volunteers from the nearby community say they pulled several miners up last week, some unwell and one of them dead. The rescue volunteers are signing indemnity forms again, stating that their operation is carried out at their own risk, and it's with very basic equipment. This is the spindle that they've been using to lower food, messages and rescuers into the shaft. And people involved say this time they're going to lower somebody down to communicate to the miners that a professional rescue operation is being planned. The volunteers say those below are now too weak to come up and their rope is too worn to lift them. Police don't believe it.
These illegal miners are refusing to exit on that particular shaft because they are avoiding arrest.
VOCATI came to the mine to try and find out if his nephew's still alive. He says the government should license and regulate the informal miners, and that if it doesn't let them dig for leftover gold, they'll be stealing scrap from the rubble of houses like his or committing worse crimes just to survive. Malcolm Webb, Al Jazeera, Stilfontein, South Africa.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.
Okay, so the details of the story is there's been, thousands of miners down there throughout the weeks they've been coming out, and there has been a debate as to whether they should cut off food supplies and water to get those illegal miners out of those mines. I mean, they are criminals, but at the same time, they want to at least give them a way to, fess up or come to surrender their illegal mining practices. And so basically, they've been employing strategies to kind of block the exit or block any way they could get out so they could reap the fruits of their labor with illegal mining. And as you saw that, gentlemen, all the people who are surrounded by these abandoned mines are impacted because people are scavenging their environment. People are in their backyards digging around where they shouldn't be, and there's no real regulation of what's going on. And again, this causes significant loss for the state, for the country, and also it affects the environment because people are mining without any, care for the soil or for the minerals or the water.
Well, police are facilitating attempts to bring more illegal miners to surface in Stilfontein after almost 2 weeks of a standoff with the so-called Zamazamas. They're refusing to come to surface, and the High Court now in Pretoria has ordered that they be allowed to exit. Newsroom Africa's Junior Khumalo joins us live there with the latest details. Good morning to you, Junior. Developments this morning coming from those disused mines, of course, in light and in context of that court order from Pretoria.
Indeed, Audrey, we are closer to that shaft. As you may know, over the past few days, we were not allowed to get this close to this open shaft as the police basically were trying to assist those miners that are still underground to make their way back onto the surface. But I'll just ask my colleague, Uxolani, just to show you some of the equipment that they have been using to try and pull some of their colleagues out of that mine. This is one of the ropes that they have been using. This is exactly what the Minister of Police was speaking about when he said that the current efforts that are being used by the locals are not safe because this is the makeshift equipment that was being used to pull these individuals out. And as we get closer to that shaft, like it's very deep, they indicated that it's almost 2 kilometers deep. We're not going to get too close to it, but we do have with us the national spokesperson for the police, Atlanta Mate, who is just going to speak to us about why the police have finally allowed the media to get this close to this shaft. Thank you so much for joining us, Atlanta. Why did the police today decide to allow the media to come this close to the mine shaft?
Okay. Well, a very good morning and thank you for the opportunity. As the police, we've realized that there's a lot of confusion out there as to what is happening in terms of our operations at these particular disused mining shafts. We've always maintained that we are intensifying our static deployments, and we've always maintained that we are not blocking anyone from resurfacing. We are not blocking any shaft. It is quite impossible, as you can see, to block this particular disused mining shaft. Our responsibility here is to prevent and combat criminality, and that is exactly what we are doing as the SAPS. It's to prevent illegal miners from going underground to continue with that illicit mining activities. It is also to prevent the food and water from going down to ensure that they resurface. But you would have seen this week, we have allowed the food and water to go down so that they can regain the strength and to resurface.
Okay. Of particular interest when it comes to that court order that was issued yesterday was this very fact of the police preventing food and water from going down. We saw 4 miners surfacing yesterday, 2 of them basically looking very weak and frail because they did not have any sustenance. This has been credited with the police basically not giving them food. Are you, as the police, worried that the individuals down there might be becoming weak and some of them losing their lives because of this decision not to give them food and water?
Well, firstly, the strategy that we are implementing, we have implemented it because we are concerned that there are human beings in a disused, abandoned mine shaft. We have received, a report from the mine owner and the Department of Minerals Resources indicating that this particular abandoned, disused mine shaft is not safe. Firstly, there's hazardous gases that are flowing. The terrain, it's not quite well, and you cannot expect our hardworking men and women in blue to go down there and operate down there. As you can see for yourself, it's quite steep. Who are you expecting to go down there and rescue people? That is why the Minister of Police directed the MEC of Community Safety in the province, MEC Vessels Moreng, to establish a team that will convene meetings, come up with a plan that will ensure that all these illegal miners are brought up to where we are. So I can confirm that that particular task team convened a meeting. The decision was made that the mine and the mine rescue experts would come and conduct an assessment. That assessment will then inform the operational plan that will be presented to the ministers, and thereafter the ministers will provide a way forward. But we stand firm with our operations. We are preventing and combating criminality. We are still here. We are of the view that the court order that has been issued, it does not stop us from continuing to stamp the authority of the state, from continuing to implement our constitutional mandate as the SAPS.
Speaking about that court order, it also says that having only this one exit is part of the problem. So there is an encouragement by that order basically to open another shaft that is going to make it easier to have more people coming out, because this current exit can only allow one person at a time. Whose duty then is it to ensure that another exit is opened?
Well, the first aspect, as you said, of the court order talks to the unblocking of another shaft to allow these illegal miners to resurface. That is not the mandate of the SAPS. That is the mandate of the Department of Minerals, Resources and Energy, working closely with the mine owners. So we will rely on them. I think they will obviously submit to their arguments and before court as to if that's feasible or not. Our mandate has always been to restore law and order, maintain order, and enforce the law accordingly. We are here to prevent and combat all forms of criminality and illicit mining that is happening underground. It's part of that criminality that we are working hard to combat. So our operations are continuing. You would have seen our members are still here to prevent illegal miners from continuing to go underground to perform those illicit mining activities. But most importantly, we are calling on all those illegal miners to resurface in a safe and, in a safe manner. But like I've indicated, I think the minister gave the team 7 days to submit that plan. And, we will be here as the SAPS to continue to conduct those our particular operation.
Okay, thank you so much. That is the police national spokesperson, Atlanta.
All right, family. This is the solution. We provide an initiative through cultural engagement to educate the people of South Africa of legal mining practices and dissuade them to partake in illegal mining practices, and stress the importance of compliance and the risks associated with illegal mining. As you heard that sister say, that the mine is not stable. There's hazardous gases in those mines. And once you go down in that mine at your own risk, you are risking your life and the life of others, because who knows if and how you'll be able to get out of there. And not only that, you can also cause more instability in those areas where people live and illegal mining is taking place. We would just want to dissuade criminality and provide consultation to have an effective regulatory and compliance standard for the people of South Africa, so they can learn how to mine legally, and then that will promote sustainability, and that will give them a better outcome for their mining, and just an outcome for their critical infrastructure and their overall economic development, because the miners who are doing this illegal practice are basically stealing money from the country and the locals who live there. And I will briefly show a clip of the update on this story.
Rescue operations of illegal miners still underground at Shaft 11 in Stilfontein in the northwest are continuing. Meanwhile, Mineral Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe says illegal mining is an attack on the country's economy and all those involved should be treated as criminals.
I don't manage the criminal activity. If you want me to manage that crime of illegal mining, then take cash heists and give them to the Minister of Finance. They said no. I said it's money, because all you do is the content, you don't talk about the activity. Illegal mining is as bad as cash heists. It's an attack on the economy of the country. It's people who come here in numbers to steal gold, and somebody is behind them. And we are discussing that is the person we must find. Those who go to the mine are foot soldiers.
More on the story. Itumeleng Khatjani, our SABC News reporter on the scene there. Itumeleng, how many miners are we talking about underground? I mean, because this is now, there is so much speculation, and we saw some coming out yesterday, but do we have any idea what we're dealing with in terms of numbers?
Well, Alian, I would tell you that there is no clarity when it comes to the issue of numbers of suspected illegal miners who are still underground. The authorities are saying they cannot confirm. Those who have volunteered to go underground say they can estimate the numbers to be at around 4,500 or even more. But the authorities have indicated that until such a time that they have their own confirmation, they will not say how many people are still underground. But Leon, I think one can tell you that in the past 1 hour, what we have seen, the developments that we have seen is only that we have seen, more police officers coming in who are stationed here at this site, where they will also be, looking into this whole area, which Gwede Mantashe has, the Minister of Mineral Resources, has defined as a crime scene. So more police officers have come in, but you did indicate that the rescue operations are expected to take place today. We do know that there are community members who have volunteered to retrieve those suspected illegal miners from underground, but they have not shown up yet. They said they will be starting with their operation at 8:30 this morning.
I mean, we see the police that are lined up there next to you. I mean, that's very visible for us to see. But then again, they have been there since, I think, the beginning of this month, waiting. And these illegal miners, as we say, I mean, have you seen arrests taking place of those that have come out? Because that's, I think, what the sticking point here is. Do they get arrested or not? I mean, because the activities they're embarking on has been described as illegal.
Well, in the past 2 weeks, we've been seeing police making arrests, and there's over 1,000 of those who emerged from underground who were arrested and charged with certain, charges. But some of them have been released by the courts. Some of them were later charged with contravention of the Immigration Act. So those who are always coming out, they would then be arrested, and then they would be taken to court. And even the police did indicate that once somebody emerges from underground, they would take that person and charge them, Leon.
Yeah, all right. Itumeleng, let's leave it there. As you say, 8:30, we should be seeing more movement taking place there. If we have time, we'll cross in with you. But
all right, family, we have to stop illegal mining in order for South Africa to have economic development and critical infrastructure. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Those of us throughout the diaspora who are knowledgeable in mining and mining practices could be a great deal of support in that effort. And now, drum roll. The highlight of this live, and something I'm personally happy to talk about. Niger, thousands march in Niamey to denounce destabilization plots. So basically, our people in the Alliance Sahel states are standing on business and understand that Western intervention hinders their economic progress and critical infrastructure. I won't use all these terms, but I'm just using these terms to, so you could get a just a concise viewpoint of what's going on, and that you remember these terms because they are relevant to our mission. So I will say them ad nauseum. But we see here in Niger that the people understand that the presidential leadership is doing what it's supposed to do, and that all the destabilization and all the terrorism that's going on is caused by foreigners. And in order to get back their country and their resources, they need to all stand on business and kick out the colonizers and make sure their borders are protected. That's why the Alliance Sahel states were created through these three countries, Niger, Mali, and my personal home in Africa, Burkina Faso.
Thousands of Nigerians marched Saturday in the streets of Niamey in support of the ruling CNSP and to denounce foreign destabilization attempts. The coalition of civil society organizations had called for a protest after authorities claimed to have arrested a French spy. Many protesters also voiced their support of Burkinabe and Malian authorities. On the 17th of September, I was in Bamako when they tried to destabilize Mali with a terror attack. But that was not enough for them. They tried to destabilize Ibrahim Traoré in Burkina Faso. We are sending a strong message to all imperialists. Know that we are standing by our military. Members of the ruling junta known as the CNSP attended the march, including the president's chief of staff. It took place amid
Greetings, families. Welcome back once again. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. This video, I promise I will share with you. There's a lot going on in the Sahel. Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, they are not happy. We are all not happy about the revolution that came out. And I said I will share. Maybe I will risk it so you understand. Nigerian has taken onto the street. Yes, to denounce what is going on there. Destabilization, I will call it agenda that is going on. The evil behind all the plot that is going on. They are not happy. So they are on the street to denounce it and also show support to their government. Mali, Burkina Faso, they are all doing it. I'll put all the video together and then I'll be back. God bless you all, families. I've already put all the videos together. It might be long, I might make it short. I'm not sure yet. But if it is short, I will share another one because there's a lot going on. Families, I'll be back. My new and returning families, my VIPs, my kings and queens. Yes, thank you all. Credit to African News, RTM, and also RTB News. Thank you, families. I'll be back. God bless you.
Including the president's chief of staff. It took place amid broader accusations of French plots to overthrow the regime. Losing Niger is a great catastrophe for France. They were not going to stand still and look at us leave. They will do everything to come back. But our chance is that we are much more aware than our grandparents. Today, Africans master the tool of information. They cannot manipulate us anymore. The protesters conceded that their quest for sovereignty will be a long one. They voiced some of their demands.
Look at that, family. Our people are waking up. You gotta love that. You see that? See that young brother right there? He knows what's going on. He knows. He's standing on business. He's ready to be the future. He's the future of our people, our people as a whole, the African diaspora, the African continent. This is what we like to see, our young children understanding what's going on and being impacted in a positive way and seeing a vision where they can see adults making a future for them where they can thrive in, something that past generations never had.
To the country's leaders. Will they be able to colonize us once more? The main organizer asks. No, a cheerful crowd responds. In that case, in the next 10 years, the CNSP has to be able to build weapons that will defend us, among other priorities. We must be able to build the tanks that we will use to fight. Industrial units have to be built. You need to develop the economy. The march comes days ahead of an international conference in support of AES states. The 3-day event will take place in Niamey starting Tuesday.
Yes, families, this is what is going on across the Sahel. If our African leaders are ashamed to denounce what is going on, the citizens, they are the ones suffering. They have taken into their own hands to go on the street. And I think I shared one yesterday or 2 days ago. They promised they will multiply. There is more coming on the street to denounce what is going on. And also by doing that is by telling the enemy that they are alive. They are well and alive, and they know what is going on. Families, this is it for now. Until anything come my way, I will be here to share it with you. God bless you all. Have a wonderful day and see you soon. Bye-bye.
We are in some exciting times, family. I tell you, this is what we want to see, and this is what we hope for at Quest Unite Africa. Our people standing on business. I know, that our vernacular, on code, but this is an example of cultural engagement to stop foreign invention, to help get their resources back and their sovereignty back and their country back so they can thrive again. And this next video is from the Black superhero, President Traore, and what's been going on, all the attempts on his life, but to no avail. And the immense support for him is something they fear. Something that hasn't been in Africa for a long time. Solidarity, hope, understanding that we need to work together, understanding that we need to get our sovereignty back, our resources back, our minerals back, understanding that we can't just give those things away freely, that African leaders need to wake up and decide, are they for the people or are they for their own interest?
They try to take out Captain Traore, people. They try to take him out. I'm scared for his safety. I'm worried. I'm officially worried because 18 times is unacceptable. The man has only been in office for 2 years. There is no way that a president should be in office for only 2 years and have 18 attempts on his life. I actually have to start asking questions about the security services in Burkina Faso. I have to start asking questions about the other Sahel Alliance countries, Mali and Niger. What are you doing to make sure that this is not happening? Because it's not happening to you people. I don't want to jinx it and make it happen to anybody else. I don't want to do that. But it's only happening to the Captain Africa. We need to take care of that. There's a reason why this keeps happening to Captain Traore. Because we know he's the ringleader of this whole situation. That's the reason why he must be protected. Because he's the driving force of what is happening with the liberation of West Africa and the Sahel region from neocolonialism. It's a fact. This is just real talk, people, because he's the man who's driving it with the master plan. And it rhymes. Listen, when a president has had 2 attempts on him, everything should get shaken up. 1 is too much, but 2, everything, people get sacked, entire departments get gutted, that's what happens when it happens twice. 18 times? 18. That means that everybody's taking a shot. That's what it means. It means that everybody's taking a shot. This is unacceptable. We do not want to set a precedent that this is the way things go.
Fair use, fair use.
Stamped out and stamped out immediately. They said that it is a combination of insurgents and political opponents. Let me ask you, who are the political opponents of Captain Traore? What is it that Captain Traore is doing that there are actual political opponents who have any support against him when everything he's done has been incredible? This is a real... Whoever is coming in cannot have the best interests of Burkina Faso or Burkinabes at heart. You can't do, because everything he's doing is good for them. So whatever you're coming in with, what reason do you have? You see, whenever you hear that there are political opponents, usually you can see the fallibility in the incumbent leader. You can see the fallibility. You might not feel like the person deserves to be removed, but you can say, okay, this person is leaning this direction. This one. The only argument you can have against Captain Traore right now is that he's anti-West. So you're trying to tell me that the political opponents who are trying to get him up out of there are pro-West? Is that what we're saying? Because that's got to be what we're saying. For me, when I see that 1-8, not 1, not 8, 18, heads have to roll. Or when I mean getting fired, not literally, but people needing to be removed from the department because somebody in that administration is working with these people. Somebody in there is an infiltrator, because there is no reason why this should be happening. They said that there was a firefight. They were trying to get into his residence. He had to be moved from his residence, and then they beat them in the firefight and so forth. Firefight? Guys, what are we doing? You mean that the other 17 times didn't prepare you for the 18th? This is...
And all the clips and news articles are in the description box. But what this brother is saying also is going to highlight another story, because, yeah, 18 times means there's something going on, and, you know, there's some foul play here.
It's ridiculous. And what is worrying me is that we don't want them to succeed. If they just keep trying, nah. Guys, you know what? Let me tell you this, and this is real talk now. We need to get all hands on deck as a community. We need to put this man more in the light. As I've said, the Watchmen of the Sahel playlist is now going to be on my channel. Anything to do with the Sahel Alliance, I'm going to be putting it in the Watchmen of the Sahel playlist. So you better be subscribed, because that's where I'm going to be putting it. This is not what my platform was supposed to be about. But as they say in life, you have a calling of what you're supposed to be doing. You've got to go with the flow. I'm doing African history, true African history. I've got the true history of Africa series coming. I've got the Back to Africa handbook. It's ready to be released. I've got all of these things. I've got comic books, graphic novels, books, everything is coming. But there is fire on the mountain in the Sahel region. And we have to stand up and put the information out there to the community. So, you see, when you bring things into the light, it's very hard to do it in the dark, or for them to do things in the dark, the skullduggery and the messed up stuff that is going on. We need to continue to highlight what this man is doing, how symbolic he is for African autonomy and Pan-African unity, and unity across the whole world for Black and African people. And the more you do that, the harder it is for things to happen to him, because people are keeping an eye. That is the reality of it, because this is unbelievable. We know that there have been at least 5. So even if there's lies about how many attempts, we know there's been 5, because those ones, at least the Western media reported on the 5. But we know that they're not going to report on all of them. So, guys, what are we doing here? We should, you know what? Listen, I'm doing my best. I'm just one guy. I'm trying to, I go and I look for the information. As I said, I'm keeping an eye on the Sahel. That's the reason why I'm putting these videos out. This is not what my channel is really about, but I'm doing my part. So I'm willing to use my channel to do my part to just keep a light on them, to make sure that guys know what's going on over there. Because Captain Traore must be protected at all costs. He must be protected at all costs. This is not, there's no compromise on that. Whatever it takes, that guy has to continue breathing for his full lifespan.
All right, family. Like that brother says, our job is to continue to support our brothers and sisters through any of the 4 main pillar initiatives, whether that be medical, business, technological innovation, or culture engagement, to continue to support their pursuit for sovereignty and control of their resources. And man, this is just what a great segue, because here we go. Standing on business. Mali secures $160 million settlement from Resolute Mining in tax dispute. If you all weren't tuned in last week, there were two Australian employees for this mine in Mali who have been illegally forging documents and evading taxes. And Mali's president, Goiti, I believe his last name is, said, nah, we can't have this. We need to do something. We need to enforce our borders and our laws. We need to let other mining companies, foreign mining companies, know that we will no longer be taken advantage of. And how do you do that, you say? You implement a mining code that gives you greater revenue on your mining projects that you do business with foreign entities. The mining code is not only a business initiative, it is a cultural initiative because it also supports the procurement of resources that are the country's and sovereignty. Key word here is sovereignty, and that encompasses sovereignty to control your borders, sovereignty to control your economy, sovereignty to control your resources.
Now, you must have heard about kidnappers asking for ransom from a person. But have you ever heard of a country asking for ransom to release someone? Well, interestingly, that is just what Mali has done. In its latest, Australian company, Resolute Mining, has said that it would pay $160 million to Mali's ruling military junta in a bid to resolve a tax dispute after the company's chief executive officer, Terence Holohan, and 2 other executives were detained earlier this month in the West African country. The company has made an initial payment of $80 million from its existing cash reserves and will make future payments of about $80 million in the coming months. Resolute Mining also said in a statement published on their website that it had settled all the outstanding claims by the government against the company, including those related to tax, customs, maintenance, and management of offshore accounts. Now, Terence Holohan has been the CEO and managing director of Resolute Mining since May of 2022. The British national has held various executive and technical mining positions, working in Africa for nearly 30 years. Earlier in November, Holohan and 2 other employees were detained in Mali's capital of Bamako as they were visiting the country for talks related to their business practices in Mali. Now, the government did not say why the 3 foreigners were unexpectedly detained, but reports suggest that the government detained them on charges of forgery and damaging public property as a way to blackmail the company amid its crackdown on foreign mining firms. Now, Resolute Mining has been working for years at Mali's Syama gold mine, which is a large-scale mining operation in the country's southwest region. The Australian company holds 80% stake in the mine, while the Malian government holds the remaining 20%.
Which is a really insane split and blends to all the corruption and exploitation of the people of Mali. 80% family. Think about that. 80% of the revenue, and it's their country that they're using. Outrageous.
Ever since the double coups in 2020 and 2021, Mali's military junta has tried to reconfigure its political and trade relationships with the international partners. The junta has also been clamping down on foreign, mostly Western, mining companies in a bid to gain more shares of the gold mining reserves. Now, Mali is one of the leading gold producers in Africa. Gold contributes 1/4 of the national budget and 3/4 of export earnings. But the Sahel nation is also one of the poorest countries in the world. It has been embroiled in a political, security, and economic crisis, and since 2012 has been battling Al-Qaeda and Islamic State armed groups. The country has relied more on its gold revenues as foreign aid has dwindled.
All those groups have been proven to be funded by the French and other Western entities. I'm just filling in the blanks.
Dwindled, and the cost of operations increase for the government, especially with payments to be made to Russian mercenaries aiding the government. Thus, to effectively overturn the situation, the military-backed government brought in a new mining code last year, which gave a chance to increase the maximum stake for Mali and local investors from 20% to 35%. However, this is not the first time that Mali has detained foreign employees in its territory. In September, the company had detained 4 employees from Canadian company Barrick Gold for several days. Barrick Gold had to eventually reach an agreement with the government of Mali and pay $81 million in October to get them released. Now, while Australia's Resolute Mining has said that the CEO and the employees are safe and continue to receive support from the UK and international embassies, it is yet not known when the Malian government will officially release them. We will continue to get you more updates on this.
When we say that it's high time African countries begin to deal with Western multinational companies, people think that we are not serious. But thankfully, the military leader of Mali, Colonel Assimi Goïta, has just proved the necessity of dealing with these Western companies. A few days ago, the military leader arrested the CEO and 3 other officials of Resolute Mining, an Australian mining company that has dominated the mining sector in Mali for years. This company, together with the other foreign mining companies in Mali, has exploited Mali's gold and made billions of dollars of profit, while Mali has been dealing with high levels of poverty and insecurity crisis. The question is, why exactly did Colonel Assimi Goïta arrest the CEO of Resolute Mining? What does he hope to achieve? And what can other African leaders learn from this? Let's find out. Mali, like Burkina Faso, is one of the leading producers of gold in Africa, but it also has an ample supply of manganese and lithium, 2 minerals key to the global energy transition, although these 2 minerals have not been extensively explored. According to the former mines minister, gold accounts for 25% of Mali's national budget, 75% of its export earnings, and 10% of its GDP. This is to tell you how important gold is.
If something is 75% of your exports, family, and you're only getting less than 20% of that revenue from whatever is exported, that is robbery.
Is to Mali's economy. However, just like most African countries' mining sectors, Mali's mining sector has been dominated since independence by Western mining companies, including the Canadian firms Barrick Gold and B2 Gold, Australia's Resolute Mining, and the British Hummingbird Resources. And the interesting thing is that these companies have continued to operate in Mali, despite the jihadist insurgency. Actually, this is very curious. Usually in countries facing severe insecurity like Mali and Burkina Faso, foreign companies present in those countries prefer to shut down operations for fear of insecurity. But in Mali and other countries in the Sahel region, facing severe insecurity crises from terrorists, these companies continue to operate. And guess what? We rarely hear news about the terrorists attacking these companies. This is very suspicious, and it makes us wonder whether perhaps these companies are collaborating with the jihadists to ensure their safety.
It's not a perhaps. I mean, it's pretty obvious and it's been proven.
But that is not the focus of today's video. Now, before Colonel Assimi Goïta took over power in Mali, the previous Malian leadership operated a national mining code to which all foreign companies were subject. But like every other African country dealing with foreign companies, the mining code granted greater benefits to the Western mining company. For instance, the code allowed Mali to hold only a maximum of 20% stake in any mines exploited by a foreign company. This means that the foreign company is entitled to an 80% stake. In addition to this, the code granted tax exemption to these companies during the period of operation. Just imagine how much tax revenue the Malian government has been missing out on. But that was the agreement, and for years, these companies milked the benefits from the code. They exploit Mali's raw gold.
In the words of, you know who I'm about to refer to. If not, then let it go over your head. That's a bad deal. That's a bad deal. They should be doing better deals. That's a bad deal. All right, don't mind me.
At a cheap price, transport the raw gold to their factories in their countries, process it into finished products, and sell the products at ridiculously expensive rates. And through it all, Mali is battling with insecurity and poverty. As much as we blame the Western companies, we also blame the past foolish government for agreeing to that mining code. Anyways, when Colonel Assimi Goïta came on the scene, everything changed. You see, just like President Traoré of Burkina Faso, Colonel Assimi Goïta has made the sovereignty and complete independence of Mali a top priority in his leadership. This is why in August 2023, Colonel Assimi Goïta signed a new mining code into law. Prior to this time, Colonel Assimi had pledged to the people of Mali that he intended to implement a reform that would make gold shine for Malians. So he launched an audit of the mining sector, and guess what? The audit revealed that every year, Mali was losing about $500 million to $1 billion in mining revenues. Imagine that. Before we proceed, we want to remind you to click the like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to our channel. Now, unlike some African leaders who do not keep their pledges, the military leader finally fulfilled his pledge and signed a new mining code on August 28, 2023. But what is the new mining code about? According to the statement released, the new mining code allows the government to take up to 35% stakes in new mineral projects and collect more revenues from the vital industry. This means that Colonel Assimi increased the government stakes in mining operations from 20% to 35%, with 5% given to local Malian investors. Now, according to the Malian economic minister, the new mining code has the potential of boosting the national budget by $820 million. The reform allows the government to hold up to 10% equity in new projects, with the option to buy an additional 20% during the first 2 years of commercial production. It also allows the Malian private sector to hold up to 5%. In addition to this, code also removes tax exemptions for mining companies during operations. This means that with the new code, all foreign mining companies in Mali are expected to pay their taxes. Now, not only would it boost the national budget, but the new mining code would increase mining's contribution to GDP from around 10% to 20%. This is brilliant, but guess what? Some of these companies have refused to adhere to the new mining code. According to them, the mines they are exploiting should be subject to the previous code, which was in force at the time of their commissioning. So, as a result of their refusal, the implementation of the code was stalled for months until Colonel Assimi decided to take drastic action. Firstly, the military junta made it known that the new mining code was not up for debate. So, it is either they take it or leave the country. Of course, these companies would not want to leave the country due to the massive gains they are getting. So,
see, family, that's what we call leverage. They have no choice. They are trapped. As their resources are dwindling in their countries, and they are no longer able to get end products cheap on the dollar and sell them back for twice the amount, they cannot, do that hustle anymore. So they are stuck in between oh my gosh. They are stuck between a rock and a hard place. There you go. What, Goite is standing on code and standing on business and realize what he has and realize that the determination of the people and their sovereignty and their economic hopes and freedoms is more important than anything else. And that is a way to spark economic development and critical infrastructure. And this mining code is not only a national interest cultural initiative, it is also a business initiative, one that will only dissuade people who are corrupt and want to do clandestine things. And those who want to, continue to do business, they'll do it on the terms of the Malians, and they will adhere to their laws and their regulations and their codes. And this is how we restore our people and the diaspora and the continent. This is how we create strategic partnerships to help economic development and critical infrastructure. And we can help through consultation and training and education and help them with digitization and other things that lend to supporting this effort and to continue to support the leadership and the alliance of the Sahel states, because they are doing what needs to be done. And then I will share the last story, and this is where you know that this leader is not playing around, and he is really, weeding out whatever political opponents and people who have their own self-interest that he kicked out. He got rid of the prime minister who criticized his leadership and his role. And that may be what Niger and Burkina Faso may need to do if there are more attempts on their leaders' lives. They need to, weed out those who are not on code or standing on business.
Now, a major power transition has taken place in Mali. The military junta has appointed a new prime minister for the West African nation. A short while back, Mali's military junta issued a televised statement announcing the appointment of General Abdoulaye Maiga as the country's new prime minister. The change of guard comes a day after the military leader sacked Choguel Kokala Maiga after he criticized the government. Till now, the newly appointed prime minister had served as the government spokesperson. Maiga was quick to join the military junta after they overthrew the then president in 2020. His appointment seems to raise further concerns over the military consolidating power in the country. And just days ago, in fact, the ousted civilian prime minister had publicly condemned the lack of clarity regarding the end of the transition to civilian rule. In June of 2022, The junta leaders promised to organize elections and hand over power to civilians by the end of March this year. However, the junta later postponed elections indefinitely. For all the latest news, download the VOCATIONAL.
So basically, the old prime minister was criticizing the junta or military leader president of the transition of civilian rule, but it's kind of shady that this previous prime minister would be so eager to get back to civilian rule when the country was still under attack. That does not bode well for the government, and it's not a good look on his part because it kind of shows that his interest is to get in office instead of continuing this fight to get the country back first and to uphold natural resources and sovereignty.
Our next story is from Mali, where the military junta has fired the civilian prime minister. His dismissal comes after a rare criticism of the country's military rulers and their failures in organizing the promised elections in the country. Now, the sacked prime minister is Choguel Maiga, who was appointed by the military leaders after the 2021 coup. The move was announced in a presidential decree issued by Colonel Assimi Goïta and was read on the state television.
Decree number 2024-0656 PDRN of November 20th, 2024, terminating the functions of the Prime Minister and members of the government.
After firing the civilian prime minister, the junta has insisted the appointed military officer general, Abdoulaye Maiga, as the new prime minister. West Africa's Mali has been a center of Islamist insurgency for over a decade. The country went through two successive coups in 2020 and 2021 amid growing violence. In 2020, military leader Colonel Assimi Goïta assumed the role of vice president under a civilian president after overthrowing the democratically elected government. In 2021, he overthrew and replaced the same civilian president in the wake of a rift between the two. After the 2021 coup, the junta promised to organize elections and to hand over power to civilians by the end of March this year. But these elections were postponed indefinitely. Now, Choguel Maiga was named as prime minister in 2021. He served as a minister on several occasions under the democratically elected governments and also ran 3 times as a presidential candidate. Later, he led a coalition and protests against the democratically elected government before its ouster. So he became the prime ministerial face for the junta in 2021. He initially fervently defended the junta rule and its cooperation with Russia over the West. However, lately, he has distanced himself from the military government. Last week, he publicly condemned the lack of clarity regarding the end of the transition to civilian rule in Mali. He said the confusion could pose serious challenges and the risk of going backwards. Months ago, a close ally of him was also sentenced to a year in prison for openly criticizing the military rulers. Maiga's changing stance on the junta has also met with protests by some of the military supporters in Mali. Protesters had called for him to step down after his public criticism of the junta.
Mr. President of the transition, for your own safety and for the well-being of our country, Malians urge you to take full note of your Prime Minister's actions. A separation is preferable at this stage. He could sell you out to the many enemies lurking over our nation.
The Prime Minister's dismissal also comes just a week after the junta arrested one of the country's top politicians for criticizing the military rulers of neighboring Burkina Faso. Now, the arrested politician is Issa Kaounjim, who previously supported Mali's current military leader. He was arrested on charges of insulting a foreign head of state which is a crime in Mali. Mali's neighbor, Burkina Faso, is also ruled by a military regime, and they are also joined by Niger in West Africa. The military leaders in these nations capitalized on popular discontent with the previous democratically elected governments over security issues. Though security still remains the biggest concern in these nations, it is unclear when they will see a transition to civilian governments, if anytime soon.
All right, the rest of the news clips you could see, they are in the description links. And my closing statement is, it's none of their business when civilian rule will return, as long as the people are safe and see progress, economic progress, and their stability in the country, then they will decide to go back to civilian rule. I mean, I'm not talking about the political implications in greater detail because that's not the scope of this. But this is why it's important for the Alliance of Sahel states to understand what they're doing and to have a solid message and a solid vision that they want to get rid of the neocolonialism in their country and stabilize their borders so they can help their people thrive and the country thrive economically. So family, this is all I have. Thank you for joining me. Let me look at the rest of the comment. Mali should not release those 3 Aussies until they received all of the $160 million. No foreign nation should own more than 3%, 7% of African resources, and that's more than generous. I agree. The Westerners have no shame at all, talking about 80 to 20%. Yeah, exactly. But to no avail. Our people are waking up. This is our time to help and connect with one another and share and support one another, because we are all we got. We are all we got. I heard Mali paid off its debt. I will have to look into that, Autobot. A strong cohortance, G3526 Niger, black family, children of the prophets of Israel. Hallelujah. All right, family. Again, enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your Shabbat. And I am out.